we've spent billions of dollars developing communication systems that are secure, encrypted, and do save the messages for records keeping later on. They just didn't use it. It's too inconvenient.
But it was used, though. I mean, it's my understanding, though, that it was used, that this whole Signal
Not,
was.
No,
this
Signal
is all
is a commercial app, Michelle.
Yeah, this is something you
It
can
is
buy.
not a government thing.
Welcome to Third Side Convo with your host, Bob Phipps. Your panelists today are Ted Johnson, Jeff Nolan, Michelle Walters, and Johnny Dunn. And now, your host, Bob Phipps.
Welcome to Third Side Convo, where we've officially embraced the madness. Now, here's how tonight worked. The panelists met 15 minutes ago. No prep, no outline, just four smart people trying to agree on what to argue about. And exactly, about 3 minutes ago, we locked in on the topic, and they got 3 glorious minutes to scramble, Google, or just wing it. Now, that's the new format, raw and unrehearsed, just like real life. So we came up with the topic, believe it or not, the hottest thing going right now is, we'll just say government communications, okay? Government and public communications. So we're going to talk about that, but we're going to do it without talking about the specific politicians because, trust me, this has been a problem that's gone on for a while. And after all the sparring, we're going to finish with our final segment. It's brand new tonight. It's If You Can't Say Something Nice. Because we got to have 5 minutes where everybody's going to at least admit where the other side actually got something right and they made a good point. So stick around. We might just surprise you. So Ted and Joe, I'll go to Jeff first. Jeff, you kind of came up with this communications issue. What are you talking about here without using names again? So go for it.
Well, I mean, I think that we're witnessing something that just went down that involved the government using third-party commercially available communications to do classified governmental communications, and clearly to avoid records retention, and that's just despicable.
Yeah. Okay, Johnny, you got to reply to that.
Well, I have 2 thoughts, and one will surprise the people on the left. It very well could be gross incompetence. There's no doubt about it. There's no excusing it. The flip side of that, though, wasn't sabotage. So I'm going to just wait till more information comes out before jumping to any conclusions. One end, gross incompetence, it very well could be. And the other end, it's no mystery. There's a lot of people out to get that person. Was it a setup? So that's where I'm at on it.
Yeah, I've started to text things sometimes, and all of a sudden it went to the wrong person. I'm like, oops. But in the government, Ted, is that any different?
No, I think that's part of the job, is to be competent and know where messaging has to go, when it has to go, isn't it? It's called doing your job. So, it was a big whiff. But they don't take responsibility for it. That's the problem. It's somebody else's fault. And the journalist is a lowlife because he printed this. But nobody says, you know what? We screwed up. Where is that responsibility? Where's that character of the whole cabinet?
Yeah, the whole people. Well, without getting specific, isn't all communication so tough these days? A person will talk to me on a tax return, and it's like, I got to check email, text, phone calls, messages, and all these different things because of all the way we communicate. Michelle,
Absolutely. Well, I was going to say, the elephant in the room, obviously, is that we are talking about. It's my understanding Signal is the form of medium of communication that is established within the government. And obviously, there was an additional person that was added onto a particular chat, which shouldn't have been added. And I do believe that, obviously, it was a huge gaffe. And I do believe that they have taken responsibility and stated that this was a huge error. This was, absolutely, at least what I've seen, that they've stated that it was a huge error. We're not necessarily exactly sure, where, what position, who added this person in, but it's the research and the information that I've seen is that they do acknowledge that it was a screw up.
You don't think this maybe is a little beyond a my bad? It's. I mean, come on.
I mean, absolutely it is. I mean, but it's one of those where we have to sit there and look at, okay, well, I mean, going back in time, what additional, forms have gone out to other various, components that weren't a national journalist, to where they can put this on the front page news in a very short period of time.
Well,
I mean, this was definitely a huge error, and I believe, at the end of the day, we're all human. I mean, people, have the people,
but there's more to it than that.
Except though, this is military operations. You're putting people in the airplanes ahead of time. You don't want them to know we're coming. So in a lot of ways, you're putting people in danger. On top of which, we have phones and we have facilities that facilitate super classified communications in a secure manner. And so that wasn't done. This was just done over everybody's phone. And on top of what, one person was in Moscow. When you're in Moscow and you're a government official, your phone's being monitored. It makes me suggest the fact that people have to think about whether or not the Secretary of Defense, the Secretary of State, the CIA, and all these other people, their phones are compromised too, because the Russians do things like that. They hack other people's phones.
Well, how secure is this Signal thing? Does anybody know, or did anybody see any stuff on that?
It's commercially made, which means it can be commercially, what would they call it, reverse engineered,
right.
Or somebody pays off one of the engineers at Signal, says, "What's the back door to this thing?" That's all it takes.
Well, Der Spiegel, just yesterday, Der Spiegel published an article where they found email addresses and passwords for the Secretary of Defense, the DNI, the National Security Advisor. There may have been a couple more in there. It was a very interesting article. And if that information was able to be found by German journalists in a day, then it's pretty much a lock that any non-SCIF governmentally locked down communications that these people were doing were compromised. I mean, come on.
But what safety is there out there, I guess, is what I'm getting at. Can't everything be looked at, it seems like? We're getting into a weird time.
We've spent billions of dollars developing communication systems that are secure, encrypted, and do save the messages for records keeping later on. They just didn't use it. Yeah. It's too inconvenient.
But it was used, though. I mean, it's my understanding, though, that it was used, that this whole Signal
was. No, Signal is a commercial app, Michelle.
Yeah, this is something you can buy.
It is not a government thing.
Not a government created or CIA created.
But when it comes to their interpersonal communication, whether it's going to be our current administration or the past one, isn't that the medium that's been used?
This was not interpersonal communication. This was official government business.
Well, I'm just meaning, if let's say with regards to official government business, taking into account the current administration or the previous one, has Signal been used? That's what I'm, wanted to find out is.
I don't know.
Obviously, there's going to be
from what I understand, Michelle, from what I understand, it was actually set up with the DoD under the previous administration, but that wasn't the problem. It wasn't the problem really. The security of Signal, the fact that they added an extra person onto there. That was a mistake.
No, I disagree that that's the problem, Bob. I think that the problem was they were discussing operational details of a military maneuver,
right,
on a commercially available thing, which also included comments about being sick of Europe freeloading and all of these things just hurt diplomacy and make everybody's job harder. It was just, it's incredible.
Kill him. Kill my act. Johnny, did you see some of the stuff that was discussed? Because I know there was some discussion about was it really classified info, but it certainly was fascinating intro on the give and take. I looked at some of the work, what they were talking to each other. It was fascinating, these discussions. One guy's going, I don't think we should do it. Another person said, yeah, we should. And it was interesting.
Well, you'll be disappointed by this answer, but it's just the truth. I am sleeping so well at night and so secure with what's going on that I have limited my intake to 5 minutes in the morning and 5 minutes at night. And I've been feeling so happy. So I wish I could give you a better answer, but that's the truthful answer. Like I said, it's incompetent or it's sabotage.
How's your stock portfolio doing?
I'd have to ask my wife. She manages that. I know.
All right. Okay. All right. I'll ask. Yeah.
But still, at the end of the day, what form of communication it is used to, you know what I mean, to talk and discuss these delicate forms of, you know, these intel information.
we
I
can't
mean,
hear you.
obviously there has to be something.
Yeah,
so Michelle's saying, what do we use?
That.
You know, what do we use?
We have a protocol.
Yeah.
It is
But what
called
is the
SCIF,
protocol?
which is like secure, compartmentalized something. It's very, very tight. And, you know, the whole reason for not using this stuff, I think, is very obvious. It is to avoid records retention, which is illegal. And
yeah, but
now,
we all
before
know
everybody
that
says, well,
happens.
everybody does it, that doesn't change anything. It is illegal. You are not supposed to conduct governmental business in a way that is not archived. That is illegal. And they did this, in my opinion, on purpose, specifically to avoid record retention. And not for nothing, that exact approach is outlined in everybody's favorite book, Project 2025.
Yeah, I don't know about that. Well, Johnny, you can't talk about it because you didn't see it, but I'm not so sure that again, they couldn't have done it on snap. They wouldn't have added this person in. You're having a problem saying that what they said was of the level it should have been on a super secure system, right? Is what you're saying, I guess. Well, we're kind of off there. Can everybody hear? Everybody hear?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can hear.
Yes.
I know.
My screen just jumped around and went dark, though.
All right.
Yes, I'm having a little bit.
Okay, since we're having some issues, let's go on and jump right now. Let's go on and jump and listen to something from our sponsors, because you know right now I think Ted's rebooted his system. He's good. So please, you know, jump on Third Side Convo Facebook and please subscribe and check out our current shows. And we'll be right back after a word from our sponsor.
Aw, Dad, my computer's slow again and I can't play my games.
Call Your Computer Solutions today and we will scan for viruses and clean that computer up remotely and make it fast again. Our phone number is 407-826-0810.
Thanks, Dad, my computer's fast again. Now I can do my homework. Thanks for calling Your Computer Solutions at 407-826-0810. The Tibia Show would like to thank Boggy Creek Airboat Adventures for being one of our sponsors. I got to go on an airboat and saw a real gator. I even got to go to the gem mine and mine for some gems. We ate a steak dinner at the restaurant and even got some gator rights. If you want to have a blast with the entire family, I suggest you go to www.bcairboats.com right now to get your tickets today. The website again is bcairboats.com.
All right. So we're back. And what we're trying to do now is I'm going to try to get into this topic a little more because communications have been an issue all through time. Look, we had the email scandals of a few years ago, and that, you know, just took over some elections and everything else. You know, communications, I'll tell you the truth, I've worked in government, and I'll tell you, the Sunshine Law is a real pain in the ass when you're trying to get stuff done, right? So I've never really liked the Sunshine Law. I liked it better when it was back rooms, go off and drink and decide shit, okay? But so, I mean, really, more stuff got done. Now, tell me why, you know, if everything's going to be, can we really act as a government without some kind of free communications?
I don't think so. I mean, I really don't. I think that, you know, we have, you know, we have hackers now. We have people that are way far sophisticated and have been able to sit there and lock into our systems to get all of our information and anything that we want from us. So I almost kind of feel like it's almost virtually impossible. I mean, if somebody really wants to get your information, there's a will, there's a way.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So I think that it's, you know what I mean, it's almost impossible to make anything 100% foolproof, I believe.
Probably
I don't know, Bob. You say back rooms and things got done. It probably was true because a lot less opposition, a lot less concerns to be done about making sure everyone is covered, whether it be in a city planning commission decision or the way the mayor was selected in New York City in the 1890s, you know, or for that matter, the Democratic Party in the 40s and 50s was all cigars, backroom stuff. I don't necessarily think that was the best way. I think the Sunshine Laws they clog up processes. They do, but it's a checks and balances to do it, to make sure people are included or at least aware of what's going on. So I think they're a good thing.
So should we only talk about anything that relates to government in the most highly secure way, and that's it? In other words, you can't just email somebody? Jeff's already said they've got probably Army emails too right now.
Classified stuff, yeah, absolutely. Of course, you have to be in a lockdown, information controlled situation. Absolutely. I mean, how could any reasonable person disagree with that? That's not partisan. It's just common sense.
Well, we have means to do it. It's just that sometimes it's just inconvenient to use it. The means they have it. You got to have the special phone. So how many phones do people like the Secretary of State have? He probably has 3 or 4 phones. That's a hassle to have another phone. So I understand that completely. But still,
it's a good paying job.
When it comes to secure things or military operations, you want to be pretty much protected.
What
absolutely want to be protected, but everybody can't sit there and still be in the same room. It's, you know what I mean? And not like when they went to go get Bin Laden where everybody's just sitting there in the same spot. We have to be able to, you know what I mean, communicate with various people from around the world. And, because obviously our legislatives, they're flying around here and there and everywhere. So when delicate situations and delicate operations are going on, there has to be a form of communication with them. And it's going to have to be either a medium of emails, phones, some type of an electronic device.
Right. But at the same time, something like this, they know this is coming up, and he's giving you up to the minute details of what's going to happen. And when it happens, that's what's classified. What jets are used, what targets are used, what bombs are used. You don't want that out. And more importantly, that's when it all has to be done. Now, if the Secretary of State is walking down the hallway and he goes to his iPhone and says, "Hey, I'll be there in a minute," that's usable. It's not. It's when you find out that we have missiles ready to launch at.
But Ted, this is going to go on. Listen, I'm saying the communications is probably the most secure it's ever going to be in the future. When you have AI and when you have everything else, I'm saying, what is the future likely to look like? This was an oops, right? Somebody being included on an app. There's no question about that. It was a big oops,
Absolutely.
But think about there are countries out there right now spending time and money just as we are, trying to penetrate other people's. How can we even trust almost anything these days? Then there's AI. Then there's fakes, right? Isn't this getting crazy, the whole world we're in, of even understanding what was true and what isn't?
Well, can I postulate this? Can we not all agree that communications of this nature within government entities should be done in a way where the conversation is recorded for the archive, right, and not done in a way that through an app that is designed to make it disappear? That is what Signal is. It is designed for us to have a conversation and then it disappears.
So it's like Snapchat.
Yes.
Very much.
You know what I mean? It's the Snapchat.
It's like Snapchat with a fancy. It's like Snapchat with a more adult name, sort of like LinkedIn is just Facebook for people who take themselves too seriously.
So why was it set up to be used then? Because it was set up by the prior administration. I do know that.
Probably to avoid record retention.
Wow. Are you saying they both do it?
Sure.
Yes. I would say so. Absolutely they do. I mean, even on Snapchat, I'm sure that there's a way for them, you know what I mean, the developers to go back and, you know what I mean, retrieve anything, any, pictures, whatever, any form of communication that you sent out there. I think
there's a reason that many state governments are in the process right now of trying to limit that disappearing chat functionality for teenagers.
Okay.
And matter of fact, here in the state of Florida, it's happening right now. There's legislation in the House that would make it where anybody 14 and under cannot use that functionality. And that we have ostensibly adults in positions of power not just having the common sense to not use this tells me that it was intentional.
Yeah. Johnny, could you see it not being intentional? Hard to say, isn't it?
It's very hard to say, and I don't want to come across as biased, but I'm leaning towards it was completely intentional, and they wanted this to happen exactly the way that it did.
Oh, it's a nice conspiracy theory. Can you explain more?
I mean, I mean, look, it's possible that someone is that incompetent, but like I said, I'm going to gather more facts before I start crying and screaming about it.
Are you saying it was intentional to include the writer from the Atlantic magazine on it? You're saying
that would be my guess.
Do you know anything about this? Do you know anything about the history with him and the president?
Yes.
A very, very small amount I did catch in my 5 minutes, but I have no doubt, though, nobody deserves to be fired, and I have no doubt they are going to get this wildly corrected very quickly.
I think somebody does need to be fired. I mean, absolutely somebody does. And it's at least at some point, we're going to be able to sit there and decipher down, you know what I mean, which one of the individuals. Because to me, I just find it, very interesting. It's not like the text went to me, you know what I mean, which there's, nothing that I could have done with it, but it happens to go to a well-renowned journalist in Atlanta. You know what I mean? What are the probabilities of that? That's what, gives me pause on this is, it wasn't going to, you know what I mean, somebody's administration of assisted. It wasn't going to somebody's mom, somebody's relative. It happened to go to this person who has a tremendous amount of pull within.
Among 14 others, by the way. And Johnny, on top of that, this journalist is one of the most hated by the president because he's the one who quoted the president a couple years ago about military people who get killed or wounded are suckers, which our president has denied, and he has not reversed the story. So if you're going with the reverse screw up or mind game of this wizardly smart president or the cabinet they're in, I'm pretty sure the journalist they would use would be someone else besides the one who's the most hated.
You know what, though? But that's taken into the assumption, though, that it was somebody that was for Trump. In my opinion, it was probably somebody.
Boy, we're throwing that name around a lot. Slam that son of a bitch. Jiminy Christmas.
Well, I think that Michelle and Johnny both mentioned firings. So in my opinion, the specific incident calls for 3, possibly 4 high-ranking government officials to resign. I would hope they would resign because they had some frickin' honor.
Character.
And I think those people would be the Secretary of Defense, the National Security Advisor, the head of the CIA, and possibly the head of the DNI, or possibly the Director of National Intelligence. I think they should, because this is an inexcusable breach. And if you are the head of the CIA and you're on this signal thread, why did you at no point go on and say, hey, who is this JG character? Or, hey, who are all these people in this thread? I don't recognize this person. You're the head of the damn CIA, man. And then the next day, just a couple days ago, to go in front of Congress and frankly, either perjure yourself or get really close to the line of perjury, because they were just ridiculous.
I'm just meaning when it comes to having any of these forms of communications, these sensitive, there has to be other admin assistants. I mean, it's not necessarily just the particular individuals that we're talking about. I mean, and it has to be a slew of staff.
The buck stops with the heads of the departments.
There you go. All right. Well, you know what's so funny is here we are agreeing a lot. We're going to have to see how this next 5 minutes go. I'm going to have to dig deep to figure out. So we'll be right back after a word from our sponsor. But please, again, check out our other shows. We're still learning. We're having fun. And we're still all friends. That's what's important. We'll see you after the break.
Corona Cigar Company is your one-stop shop for all your cigar needs. Whether that's a brand new humidor, a box of those new cigars you've been waiting for, a top-of-the-line cutter or lighter, a place to enjoy the finest cigars and spirits with friends, or the only cigars grown right here in the Sunshine State, we've got you covered. Come visit one of our retail locations for the ultimate cigar experience. Visit us online at coronacigar.com.
Ridge Gun Range is a family-oriented shooting range that has been in business for over 30 years. They specialize in basic firearm training and offer numerous services such as consignments, gun trades, gunsmithing, and concealed weapon classes. I even got my training for gun safety at Oak Ridge Gun Range. Great customer service. And firearm safety is what they do best. So find out more at oakridgegunrange.com.
All right, it's time for our final segment. This is new. If you can't say something nice, all right? We've argued hard. We're going to shift gears a little bit. And what I'd like each panelist to try to do, yeah, there you go. You got to smile now, Ted. Thank you. Each panelist gets to name a few real honest points the other side made. What's funny was we kind of all agreed somebody, some crap should hit the fan here. But I want y'all to prove that we were listening and not just waiting to talk. So, Teddy, what did Michelle say that, if you think back a little bit, because I know you're following her, what did she say that you actually agree with? Go for it.
I'm sorry, did I miss that?
Come on, Ted. If you want a chance with Michelle, you got to pick out some things that she said.
Come on, you gotta
Well, various things. One thing about Michelle, she's always going to. I think she mitigates to find what's the best way. I don't think she likes to have the personal responsibility as much as saying, okay, it possibly could be this, it possibly could be that, which is true. We're always kind of possibilities, except Johnny's conspiracy theory. But the thing that she said most was that, signal is used and is it a group thing and it's something to oversee it? Well, that happens. It's a boop. You're right. Okay.
All right, Johnny. Johnny, what'd you hear on the other side? You were agreeing with them a bunch.
Well, look, you kind of have to. Look, Mr. Nolan said one of my favorite lines in history. It's even on one of my documents for my company. Never utter it's not my fault. The buck stops here. And by the way, and I would like to see both sides of government stop always blaming the other side and actually look like a freaking leader and go, I'm in charge. It's my fault somewhere. I am so sick of both sides always blaming some stuff, because all we're doing in this nation is creating a pattern of everyone in the world going, well, it's their fault. And if everybody goes around always saying it's their fault, no one ever says I'm failing because of me. And that's the only way anybody ever changes. So this whole pattern of blame and not taking responsibility, it pisses me off because, for multiple generational reasons, it's just unacceptable. It's my fault. Move on.
I knew there's a reason we wanted you on the show, Johnny. Jeff, what can you say to that?
Well, this one's easy because I do not disagree with one word Johnny just said. I think he just bullseyed. I could not agree more. As my joke about myself is I'm, as left as both Vladimir and John Lennon. And but when people don't take responsibility and have some honor, I get absolutely livid. And I think that's what we're seeing. I think Johnny and I are very similar in that way.
All right, Michelle, your turn to say something nice about Teddy.
Oh, Teddy. No, I do. Actually, with regards to both of you guys, both Teddy and Jeff this was a major screw up, and we're not necessarily seeing the accountability that we should be seeing. Somebody should be fired. Absolutely and unequivocally. This was, this was another black mark, unfortunately, on, our certain individuals on our current administration, and they really honestly do need to sit there and take some responsibility other than pointing the finger. So I'm 100% in agreement. I'm 100% in agreement with, trying to secure a format and a form of communication to where it's going to be encrypted, it's going to be safe, and making sure that we're not taking our, our men and women in the military and, putting them in harm's way in any way, shape, or form. That should be the most important.
Yeah, Johnny and Jeff, I thought, did well, too. Johnny, of course, the responsibility, we all agree upon that. Jeff, I hadn't even thought about the records retention thing because I didn't understand the software itself.
To me, it's the whole game here.
Yeah. Interesting.
Obama law, by the way. That was an Obama law.
Wow. What's that, Michelle?
No, I was going to say, I didn't realize, though, that Signal was the Snapchat for the government. I had absolutely no idea. I thought,
but it's not Snapchat for the government. It's just Snapchat with a different name.
Exactly. I know. It pretty much it is. It is, you know what I mean, Snapchat with a different name. But yeah, so you kind of wonder, are they sitting there and sending a couple of pictures or something or what? So I have no idea.
All right, guys. Well, that's a wrap on the third side. We actually, it was funny. We kind of went straight to everybody agreeing that this was an issue. Okay. It really was. That's what everybody was agreeing, that this is more, it wasn't just not classified, which is the way they wanted to talk about. We didn't agree on everything. We listened, we laughed. And at the end, hopefully we respect everybody even more than when we started. So please subscribe, please check us out again, and please check us out in the future as we try to get to that third side in our Third Side Convo. We'll see you again next week. Thank you.